You are listening to Zen and the Art of Triathlon.
Well, hey there, all you triathlon freaks and geeks, and welcome to another episode of Zen and the Art of Triathlon, the podcast where we go long on endurance and also try to improve ourselves a little bit along the way. All right, we have a very interesting show today. We have a training log towards the back end where I take you with me on all kinds of training escapades, and that may even have a little bit more from the Ozarks from last episode, and they're out in the wilderness. And then also we are going to talk up front about the Buddha nature of dogs. So there's a age-old, and I'm talking how many 1,000 and something year old question in Zen. It's like the most classic question in Zen, and it is, does a dog have Buddha nature, is actually the question. And there's a variety of answers, and it's a question that you're supposed to work on and then answer once you figure it out. And then a Zen master judges you to see whether you got the answer right or wrong. And I'm going to tell you the actual truth behind the question, does a dog have Buddha nature? And then we are going to twist it a little bit into, does a triathlete have Buddha nature? Because after all, this is a podcast about triathlon, so we got to do that kind of stuff. And I think that's the majority of the show. Let's get into that right after we kick off some really interesting triathlon news. Here we go. All right, we'll do the most fun thing first. In the racing world, the biggest triathlon to go down lately is Roth, and I believe they pronounce it Roth. It's in Germany, but it's spelled R-O-T-H, and it's not an Ironman brand race. It's a challenge brand race. But it's kind of like it's like the challenge race brands championship in a way. And it's just like the biggest, most fantastic triathlon in the world, a lot of people say. It's absolutely amazing. And even a lot of pros whose careers are made by winning Ironman races and winning Kona and all that will tell you that Roth is by far the best Ironman experience in the world. And we have Sebastian Kienle won first place. I met him recently at Galveston. He won first place, which is, he puts up there with one of the greatest things he's ever done. And then, let's see, we have Jesse Thomas, either got second or third, and Jesse has actually been on this podcast a while back. He's a really cool guy, and he did really well. And then on the female side, I think, was Miranda in it? Miranda Carfrey. The standout female performance that I noticed was Lucy Charles. Lucy Charles is this girl that's, and I know she's a woman, but she's almost a girl because she's like one of the youngest ever triathletes to do really, really well at Kona. She got second, I think, in Kona 2017 last year, and was just a breakout performance. Everybody's like, who is that? And she's an insanely good swimmer. So she's very interesting to a lot of people because she pretty much came out of nowhere. She's very young, so she should have a long career ahead of her. And she's already getting second in Kona and now at Roth. And let's see, and she only got second by about 9 seconds or something like that. And there's a cool video and some photos of her trying to run down first place, and they were both about to die at the finish line. I didn't catch who the first place female was, but I think she's not familiar to us here in the Western Hemisphere so much. She's German, but she's obviously very badass. So that was the biggest news in racing. We got some bad news where Torenzo Bozzone, and it's actually Bozzone, I think. So you say Bozzone, is he's actually from New Zealand. He's not from Italy, but he's from New Zealand, and he was training at home and got hit by a logging truck. And I didn't jump right on the training log and start talking about it, even though it happened several days ago, because I was waiting for more details to come in. It seems like it might have been a hit and run. These are the details that I can gather, here from the other side of the planet. It seems like it might have been a hit and run. It seems like where he was riding is a pretty difficult place to ride. So they have problems with this, with cyclists, with the drivers getting too close to cyclists and stuff. And he had to go to the emergency room, and he's really banged up, but it seems like that he might end up being okay. And the bad icing on this bad cake is that he was killing it this year, maybe the past year and a half. I mean, he was winning everything. So he was being looked at as going into Kona and being a very, very much a top contender, just like Sebastian Kienle and Lucy Charles, like we were just talking about. And now, this close to Kona, he's been hit so hard that he may not race at all for a while. The latest I also heard was that he is not paralyzed or anything like that, but he did require facial surgery. Oh my God. So it's not good. And the other detail, last detail, is I heard that they identified the logging truck that might have hit him, which in a lot of other countries, if you're from the United States, we have this problem here where it's like they blame the cyclist. Well, in a lot of other countries, they don't. They blame the vehicle, which is really, really good. The communities on the warpath, trying. I don't know what the rules are exactly in New Zealand, but the communities on the warpath trying to locate this driver and prosecute him for hitting and running. And I was thinking about it a little bit. I was like, well, man, you're driving a logging truck. The amount of weight and length of one of these things it is possible to hit somebody with something that big and not notice, maybe. But I don't know anything about that. So that's the news in cycling injuries. Let's see. The next thing is we have some cool bikes coming out. They're road bikes, but it's a sign that we're probably going to be looking at some new triathlon bikes coming out. And I mean, triathlon bikes are pretty much the coolest part of triathlon, these TT bikes that we ride. And let's see, Cannondale, and who was the other one? Specialized, I think, came out with new Aero road bikes, and they're really cool to go look at. They're all in the news, so go check them out because it gives you some ideas of what might be coming. Oh, BMC came out with one, and they're just really neat. So go check that out, get your bike porn fix, and start getting some ideas of what they might do with tri bikes. There's an interesting thing with the disc brakes. So we're starting to see disc brakes more and more in road bikes and triathlon bikes. And what we're seeing from these 2 or 3 new road bikes that came out is disc brakes, and we're probably going to see those brands like the BMC, for example, tri-bike will probably end up having disc brakes. The problem with disc brakes on road bikes and triathlon bikes is mostly, it's not entirely in people's heads, because a lot of it is, well, people just don't like change. If something works, they don't want to change it. And then in triathlon, you have the aerodynamic question. Is it, more or less aerodynamic? And visually, because you look at bikes from the side, you would think it's less aerodynamic, but actually in testing, they're quite often just as fast, and sometimes even faster when you test them aerodynamically than regular old rim brakes. And also the amount of speed gain that you have going downhill and into turns, because you're more confident braking and you can brake later because your braking really works really well, is overall net effect as you go faster. Whenever they test riders on bikes with with disc brakes, and it's not exactly the same, but you can ride a mountain bike with or without disc brakes on the same bike course, and it's obvious you go faster on a mountain bike with disc brakes because your control is so much better. So that kind of depends on where you live. If you live somewhere that is dead flat and you never turn and the weather is perfect, so the roads are always dry, so your braking is great, and your road surface is totally smooth, then yes, your rim brakes will be faster. But you start adding in more of these problems that cyclists actually do encounter every day, then, as things start adding up, man, imagine living in a part of the Pacific Northwest where it's wet, rainy, potholed roads and hilly, mountainous even, and you could say, man, my tri bike or road bike, I'd be way faster with disc brakes. An interesting thing though is in professional cycling, they don't like disc brakes for a very odd and interesting reason, in that they want to be able to swap out wheels very quickly. And a disc brake caliper is actually a really narrow slot, and the disc itself has to fit in that perfectly. And unless you have an exact match on your wheel, your wheel will go in to your frame because the disc will rub or won't even go into the housing area for the brake pads. It's very, very interesting that's the big hang up. There was this weird thing where people were like, I might get cut with my disc brakes, which has proven to be a non-issue. And yeah, so how do you change out wheels really quickly on a bike? And when it's disc brakes and somebody's just throwing a wheel at you to put on there, you can't just grab a wheel and put it on, and on a regular caliper brake bike, you can adjust the calipers out. You can widen them pretty easy. And I've actually heard that on a disc brake bike, you can do it almost as easily. You just kind of got to know how. But also, everything needs to be the same standard. So I think we're actually going to see some changes in that, so that this keeps progressing that way. And that's the way things might be headed. Okay, last cool bike technology news is MorphTech released or started shipping and delivering these handlebars, and these handlebars are so cool. They look weird. They look kind of like upright bars, and they fold forward into arrow bars. So if you're in the arrow position, you have no bull horns. You have no outside bars. I guess we'll call them that. And when you're in the outside bar position, you have no arrow bars. What it does is when you're in the arrow position, it reduces a ton of drag because you don't have the bars hanging off to the side. And then you say, well, what if I need to grab the brakes? Well, the cool thing is the brakes are always in your hand. It's really weird when you think about it, but the brakes are always right there. And then, let's see, what's the next question? What if I want to ride upright? And you're like, well, you just sit up. And when you sit up, you push down, and then when you sit up, the bars come with you. It's really, really weird. I rode them about 1.5 years ago on a bike that the guy that invented them brought by. He's from the Houston area, and he brought them by my house, and we did a podcast, and I rode them in the dark and in the rain. It stopped raining, so the roads are still kind of wet, but it was dark. It was like 5 a.m. or something like that, 6 a.m., and we were riding by streetlights on wet pavement. And after a couple of tries, I kind of figured it out how to ride them, and then it was like really intuitive. Every question that I had, he was like, oh, just ride it and watch. And he was right every single time. So again, these are MorphTech, MORF-TEC, almost said K, TECH, MorphTech. And These are very cool handlebars. They're starting to be delivered. They're on Instagram, and also there's a website, and also there's a thread on Slow Twitch if you wanna check them out. So that's all the big triathlon news. All right, you may have noticed that lately, every episode, I've been trying to include a Zen teaching or Zen lesson that is applicable to us in the triathlon world. And I thought I would do the classic big question in Zen. That is one of the first questions that people have a lot of trouble with. You know, what is the sound of one hand clapping? Does a tree fall in the woods? Does a dog have Buddha nature? Like what does that even mean? Does a dog have Buddha nature? And I'm going to explain all the parts of it for you right here so that you can roll into this world of Zen knowing a whole lot more about what's going on. All right, this comes from a Zen master, a story about a Zen master answering a question. A monk asked a Zen master named Joshu, Joshu, does a dog have Buddha nature? Now, first off, you may say, you know, what is Buddha nature? And you may even say, are they even talking about a real dog in this? And yes, that is one thing for certain we know. The non-weird part about this one is they're just talking about a dog, or just a regular old dog that you see walking around. Okay, that's covered. But Buddha nature. So what is Buddha nature? That can be taken some various ways, but in general, Buddha nature is kind of like it. Basically, it's enlightenment, or contentment, clarity. I wouldn't call it happiness, but are you seeing the world? Clearly for what it really is. Are you in the zone? Although it's not really much about the zone so much. That's kind of a side effect. But yeah, is a dog enlightened? Let's say that. Does a dog know really what's going on in the world? And that one is so odd that to dogpile, on top of that, Joshu gave 3 different answers. He gave a different answer at 3 different times, because apparently this monk, or a monk or 2 or 3, asked him this question several times. And this is a thing in Zen. They're constantly, these stories of people are constantly testing each other. I don't know why. That's just what they like to do. And so, and people are also trying to learn themselves. So you learn by asking and testing the master and see what is their response. So one time the Zen master Joshu said, yes, a dog has Buddha nature. A separate time asked the exact same question. He answered, no. And how's that possible, right? And then on top of that, a wholly separate time, a third time, he answered mu, M-U, which is, a lot of people think that that's no, and it's not. It's actually Chinese for a null set. Like, it's an unanswerable, I can't answer. But then he answers mu, and then maybe walked off. That was his complete answer. Okay, so how can you have 3 answers to the same question? And it goes back to knowing that the right answer to things is often, quote unquote, it depends. So a lot of times Zen masters will give an answer to a question, and they give different answers to the same question, and they do that on purpose. And it's to show you that it's to show the student that the student is trying to grasp onto and hold something permanently. They want a permanent answer. And you can't have a permanent answer because things are always changing. So on purpose, they give a changing answer to allow the student, to force the student to let go, because if you're gripping too hard on one reality, you're unable to work with another reality. And just give it time, and another version of reality will present itself. For most of your life, your parents might be alive, and then all of a sudden they're not, right? So life is like that. For a lot of times you live in this one city, and then all of a sudden you don't, right? So what city do you live in doesn't have a forever answer. It has a changing answer, right? Triathlon, what sport are you doing today? Right? It's a changing answer. And basically, Zen is an offshoot of Buddhism, and Buddhism teaches that people's problem that they suffer with the most in life is that they try to hold on to something when things aren't permanent. Everything changes all the time. And there's a saying, if you grip too tightly, you get rope burn. Hold things loosely so that they can move, and things work out a whole lot better. Okay, so does a dog have Buddha nature? Says yes, and then later says no. A lot of this also, that when they give different answers, is what does that person, the master or the teacher of anything in life, has a different answer based on the person that's asking, right? Different people need to hear different answers to get ahead in life, or for life to be okay for everybody in general. If a hunter comes up to me and asks, should I have a gun, and their job is to hunt, I don't know, deer or something like that, then yes, they need a gun, right? I've got somebody else that's a prisoner, and they're in prison and they have severe bipolar disorder, and he asked me, should I have a gun? Well, the answer is no. So a lot of questions depend on the person that's asking, and the same person can require a different answer to the same question throughout the day. And you tie it back to triathlon. Should I eat they're racing, should I eat sugar right now? And you say, well, yes. And then they say, well, should I eat sugar right now? And it's like, well, no, you just ate sugar. So you don't, carbs, you don't need anymore. So the answer kind of changes. Okay, but now we get really deep and start asking the question about this mu thing. MU, and it's fun to go Google this. Does a dog have Buddha nature? And look up the Wikipedia answer, because, and there's a whole bunch of other write-ups on it, but a really crazy and good analysis of this question is no, it's an unanswerable question. Goes back to the fact that Joshu was saying a dog can't have anything, right? And that's a really deep Zen Buddhist concept, is you actually don't own anything. You don't have anything. And everything passes in life, right? And especially if it's something that's not a material item, if it's more like a feeling or a concept. And in Zen, they're always talking about, you got to watch out for concepts, because concepts are not reality. I can have a Coke can in my hand, but it's in my hand. I have it in my hand, but the idea of a Coke can in my hand, well, that's not anywhere. I don't see it, so I can't have a visual concept of a Coke can. So if a dog has Buddha nature, another answer, if you kind of want to go along the mu line of answering, would be, okay, if somebody said yes, then the smart ass answer back. They're always Zen students, monks, teachers, masters are always trying to outsmart ass each other. Or, oh, really? What pocket does he put it in? This Buddha nature of his. It's like dogs don't have pockets. Now, a kangaroo has a pocket, so you could get him on that one. Does a kangaroo have, Buddha nature? And you say, yeah, he keeps it in his pouch. But no, dogs don't have anything, and they're not interested in having anything. So how can a dog have Buddha nature? And That's pretty much how the moo answer comes along. And it's also kind of like asking, I'm trying to think of something that's not too negative. Because the best examples are, really like negative ones. Like, why did you kill that person why did you kill that person walking down the street yesterday? And it's like, you've moved past the fact that you didn't even do that. You're like, well, I didn't. And they're like, well, answer the question. Why? And you're like, well, I didn't. That's like a null question. That's a moo, mu, which it's just this weird thing that it happens to be the same thing as the sound a cow makes in the United States. But that's neither here nor there. That's a totally separate thing. So a really good one that's like really negative, that kind of falls in this line of, and it's a trap. These questions sometimes are, the Zen master can tell it's a trap, or a practiced Zen student can tell it's a trap. So the answer is moo, is something along the lines of, how long has it been since you stopped beating your wife? And, that's an unanswerable question, because if you don't beat your wife or your spouse or whoever they're talking about, then you can't even answer the question, right? So the question is, it's actually a part where they're actually trying to talk past the question a little bit and trying to trap you. So I don't do politics on this show, but let's say Trump said, it's a trick, we're going to make Mexico pay for building, we're going to build the wall, we're going to make Mexico pay for it. People move past the question of building the wall or not. Now they're on the whole thing is like, Mexico is going to pay for it, and people are all fighting about that, and that's exactly what he wants. And because it keeps it in the front of people's minds, and they can envision a wall being built, and envisioning things is 90% of getting it done, in people's minds. And now they're just arguing actually who's going to pay for it or not, and he doesn't really care who pays for it, but as long as it gets built. And again, that's politics. I don't want any emails about politics or anything like that. I try to stay a million miles away from that. But that's like a recent example in modern history where it's a trick statement or a trick question, and Joshu caught on to it, and in that case said, moo, that's a trick question. There is no answer. A dog can't have Buddha nature. And then there's even a twist on that. And a dog can't have Buddha nature because we can't possibly know what a dog has or hasn't as far as concepts and like what it likes or dislikes in general when it's something so foreign to us. And that's another thing that they're trying to point out in Zen, is that unless it's a direct experience that you are having right now, that knowing something is nearly impossible. So it's like 2 steps away from knowing. One, you're not a dog, so you don't know. And then also, well, you're not a dog and you're not that dog, so how could you know? And then 2, we don't even know if dogs know enlightenment or Buddha nature anyway. Okay. So he sidestepped that entire question. All right. Now, how do we translate this into triathlon training and so on and so forth? Well, one thing I like to repeat a lot is that any good coach will answer a training question with, it depends, okay? There almost never is a perfect answer to a question that only has one answer. Nearly everything has a sliding scale of a correct answer. It depends on where you live. It depends on your background of training. It depends on your age and how your weight, how hot it is outside. So a classic one is, How long do I need to train for an Ironman? Well, it depends. Have you done an Ironman ever? If not, it's going to take you a long time. Do you train a lot already and you've done some Ironmans? Well, then you don't need to really train much at all. You just kind of need to keep what you're doing and give yourself a few weeks to taper, right? And that's like a classic scale of it depends. And that's also why a training plan is just a guideline. It's full of different possibilities and circumstances, and you need to be flexible. And sometimes the answer is yes. Let's say it's got a 1 hour bike ride with 3 5-minute long intervals in there. Should I do that workout? Well, this person over here, yes. That person over there, no. Because this person has they haven't done any interval work lately, and they need to do an interval ride. That person over there just did bike intervals this morning or yesterday, and they definitely should not do that. They need to do long and easy. And then Moo would be the answer of, this person doesn't even own a bike right now. They either don't own one, or they're on vacation and there is no bike available. So that's a dumb question. You can't even answer that. Okay, so that is the story behind does a dog have Buddha nature, and how you can translate that into triathlon. I encourage you to go check it out. Another one go check it out online, Google it and look it up. And I encourage you also to think about it this way, that does a dog have Buddha nature? That's like asking if a dog likes Picasso, right? One, we don't even know if a dog likes art. Do dogs appreciate art? There's something where like elephants can make like paintings and stuff, and they sometimes like to do art, but we're not really sure that they appreciate art. And a dog, probably even less so. We're not really sure if a dog appreciates art. And then, does a dog even, if it did appreciate art, how would we even know if it likes Picasso or not? Because Picasso is a very specific artist, and a dog doesn't speak English to tell us if it likes Picasso or not. Yes, dogs definitely do have emotions, and dogs definitely have personalities and all that stuff. I've gotten into many arguments with some people about how super intelligent dogs are, and how you can totally see, if you get to really know dogs, you can totally see that they have a lot of emotions and all that. But one is, about artwork. We're not really sure, I think, I'm not, whether dogs appreciate art or not. I know dogs have a favorite toy. They're super excited when certain people show up. Some dogs are afraid of this. Some dogs love that. Anyway, dogs are very complicated. I know that. Okay. And let's see. I think that is it for our Buddha nature question. And if that confused you more than it helped you, that's okay as well, because the answer is it depends. Because the answers in Zen are never solid, right? They're about direct experience. As Bruce Lee said, the finger pointing at the moon is not the moon. The moon is the moon. So, it's like the reflection of the moon isn't the moon. The actual moon itself is the moon. And you have to ask your questions like these to yourself, and learn the answers and what they actually mean to you. And if you were going through Zen study and you had a Zen teacher assign that, it's called a koan, one of these, basically it's an unanswerable question, right? They assign you one of these unanswerable questions, and then you come back to them with your answer. And what you have to demonstrate to the Zen teacher is that you haven't fallen in the trap of trying to know the exact answer, and also trying to see the world in concepts only, and an attachment, that you don't have attachment to being right about the answer. And if you can do that, and the answer is not one particular answer. It's not like 2 + 2 is 4. It's more like you give your answer back to the Zen master, and the Zen master, kind of knowing you and knowing your history, because this is a depends thing, can tell whether your answer to the question shows how well that you've learned to not be attached and to be in the present and not be caught up in the past, the future, wanting things that you don't currently have, or thinking that you own things forever, all that stuff that we talked about previously. And that's why there is no exact answer. The answer is more of a statement by you and how you experience life. And also your teacher will say, I think you got it. There's like a more formal saying. And then they give you another one, another unanswerable question. So does a dog have Buddha nature? And then you come back with your answer, and your answer should show something that you're like in the moment. And it can't show that you've been thinking about it a lot in the past, and you pull out a piece of paper and read a paragraph off. It has to be a spontaneous answer. So let's say you're sitting in a field in the sunshine, and your master asks you this question. You're sitting cross-legged in front of him, and he says, let's say your last name is Smith. Oh, student Smith, does a dog have Buddha nature? And you sit there, and then you feel around you, and then you say, the sun is hot on my back. Or you could say the sun is hot on the student's back, right? That shows that you're not caught up in the past. You're not thinking about the future. You're right here, right now with that teacher. And depends on the teacher. The teacher may say, wow, that surprised me. That's a good answer. It kind of jolts the teacher a little bit, especially if it jolts the teacher and it wakes up the teacher about what's going on in the present. And you've earned some bonus points right there. And then the teacher may say, that's a good answer. The teacher may say, oh, I've got a live one here, somebody that thinks they're super smart, and then ask you back something like, oh, you own a back now? Is your robes that you're wearing, I don't say you own a back now. Oh, are you, let's throw that one out. Let's say, oh, your clothes are hot? Because let's say you answered back, the sun is hot on my robes, right? And then the teacher would say back, oh, those are your robes that you own now, huh? And then you would have to, now you're thinking on your feet. Now you have to be like, oh, shit. And then you'd have to come back with something like, not my robes, not your robes, but they are my robes and they are your robes, neither mine nor yours, just present in the sun. I don't know, something like that. I'm just making it up. You can see I'm not like fully enlightened or anything like that. And the teacher would go, oh, okay, now we're getting somewhere. That was a surprise question. And you answered that one showing that you're not thinking that you own things that can't be owned, because robes, you can't own robes. You can't own your clothes. They're not yours forever. They're eventually going to wither away and disappear in the dust, just like you. And yeah, okay. So that was a long tangent on Buddha nature. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Oh, and like I said, if this is confusing to you, that's okay. It takes a long time to get comfortable with this. You don't really figure it out at first. You kind of get comfortable with it a little bit, and then it kind of settles in your mind a little bit, and then you start to get it, and then you start to see it all around you at all times. For example, my Zen of right now is I'm looking at a fence across from me, and the fence, while it is a fence, it's also not a fence. It was trees, and in the future it'll be rotten, and it already is starting to show signs of rot. And it's both keeping things out, but it also keeps things in. And then it's also a solid barrier, but I can also see through it because there's slats. Some of the boards are old, and some of the boards over there are brand new. And I'm not sure why. Some of the fence is tilted, some of it's forward. So how much of it is actually really fence, and how much of it is an illusion or just a concept of a fence, right? Because it's a fence to me, or a dog, but to my car, it's not a fence. I could just drive right over it because it'll fall right over because it's not a very strong fence. See? So that's the Zen of in the moment. Okay. You can see this stuff at work with your triathlon gear, for example. You have your most important thing in the world is your running shoes, and for a while, and then they're worn out. And who's actually doing the running when you're wearing running shoes? Is it you or is it the shoes? And then your bike. Your bike is so important. But what is the bike? Is the bike the wheels? Is the bike the handlebars? Is the bike the frame? Is it all of it together? Because sometimes you ride it with certain wheels and then sometimes you ride it with other wheels. So does your bike have 4 wheels or does it only have 2? Right? So that demonstrates how well you have a grasp of Zen and how much we do things with just concepts of things. And then when things don't work out, someone steals your bike. Are you still a triathlete? Because a bike is required for triathlon. So if you have no bike or there's no pool around, are you still a triathlete? If you have done a triathlon, if you haven't done a triathlon in 3 years, are you still a triathlete? Having done an Ironman, are you still an Ironman 10 years later, even though you haven't done one in 10 years? Or does that fade and is that gone? Ironman is a concept. It's not an actual thing. I can't hold an Ironman in my hand, in the palm of my hand, right? Now, I can meet a person that's done an Ironman, but are they an Ironman? And maybe they are an Ironman when they cross the finish line of an Ironman, but the next day or a week later, they're an attorney, right? They're not an Ironman anymore, but are they? Because they've done an Ironman. So once you start seeing how all these concepts, we try in our mind to think that these things are solid, but they're not. And the more you're able to move the pieces around and being okay with being presented with the fact that things do move around on their own, the more well-adjusted you'll be in life. And I like to say a lot of times that being enlightened is just like being well-adjusted, right? Somebody comes up to me and says, oh my gosh, this was a big one. I did 3 self-supported Ironmans before maybe I did 2. But anyway, I did a few self-supported Ironmans before I actually did a Ironman brand Ironman. And I knew a guy that told me and believed in the fact that I was not an Ironman until I did an Ironman brand Ironman. I was like, dude, you're just paying a company to do the exact same thing. I did the exact same distances. And he's like, no, you're not an Ironman unless you do the Ironman brand. And then, check this out. I did a twist on him. Threw it right back in his face. And I said, did you know that there are people out there that say you aren't an Ironman unless you've done the Ironman in Hawaii? And he hadn't done that one. And he was like, what? Well, that's not true. And I said, hey, that's your opinion, man. There's some people that think that you aren't an Ironman until you do the Ironman in Hawaii. And that made him see what it felt like to be told that he's not an Ironman, right? And that flipped his world upside down. And some of you may be going, wow, that's pretty cool. I did not know that. Well, let me throw another one at you. There are people out there that think, and they're being absurdists at this point, right? But they will tell you that you aren't an Ironman unless you did the very first Ironman, that first time that they ever did it in Hawaii. And only those people that finished it did it. And every Ironman since then has been a copy of the first. It is not the original, and it'll never happen again. And nobody else will ever be able to do that Ironman and be an actual true Ironman, except for the people that did it that day, that location. And it's changed since then. It's not even in the same location anymore. You can't even go do it in the same spot anymore. Everything's moved. So how about that? Does that rock your world a little bit? Okay, that is it for the concept of, does a triathlete have Buddha nature? Don't hold things so tightly. Be wary of concepts. Keep things moving. Be able to go with the flow. Stay grounded and well-adjusted, and you'll move more effortlessly and enlightened through this world. Okay, that's enough of that stuff. Let's go ahead and get started with the training log, where I take you with me with a whole lot of training all over the place, swimming, biking, running, random stuff. Got some good stuff in this one. And that's it. Here we go.
You are entering the ZenTri training log zone.
Hi everybody, my name's Brett. I'm a triathlete.
I decided it's time I got some friends more suited to my status.
But Joe, we've been friends for years.
Hey, we all make mistakes. Come on, dudes, let's go exercise! Exercise! Yeah! I'm gonna do sit-ups till I poop myself!
All right, let's have the beginning of a training log here. I'm at Camp Orr, Arkansas. We're going to wrap this up real quick. It's just one last entry while we're here. It didn't make it in the last show because it happened after I started wrapping up the editing. We had a rattlesnake in our campsite last night. It came out from under a tent and at some boys at night in the dark. It just gotten dark. And came at them, and then they started screaming and running around, Mr. Blangner, there's a rattlesnake. So we all come out with flashlights, and then it proceeded to go under somebody else's tent. They all got out yelling, and then the next tent it started trying to aim for had 4 or 5 boys in it playing cards or something like that. And it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. When at first we told them stay in your tent, to keep them safe. But then when we saw it was coming for them, said, get out of your tent, and to watch them pile out of their tent, I said it was like watching clowns pile out of a clown car but they're on fire. And we eventually caught it, and the camp staff relocated it. But I don't know what kind of rattlesnake it was. But that was an adventure. And now Kai and I are about to get in the Xterra and drive up the steepest continuous road, gravel, dirt, rock road, to get out of this campground, to get cell signal, to get a message out to the families that we're leaving tomorrow on time. Everything looks good, because they haven't heard from us in about 4 days. And we're down in the Buffalo National River bottom. It's cliffs all around, and getting out of here is going to be an adventure. I was really worried it was going to rain. You got him? But it didn't, so the road will be dry. Here we go. Open her up. Let's load up. All right, we are back. We are on our way to W2the Arcade. Had a great run this morning. So good. As we all know, this podcast has slowly evolved into the plantar fasciitis podcast, and I've been trying to overcome it, and it's worse on my right foot. Almost done with it completely in my left foot. I just have to be careful. And I've realized that my foot rolls in when I run, and also on the bike. And so I've got this running loop. And I run all over my neighborhood and stuff, but I've realized over time there's 2 things that make it worse. And it's running uphill. So these are tips to if you've got plantar fasciitis, things that might help you out. Running uphill, that pulls on your calves, and your calves are tight, and then overnight they pull everything tight, and then things can't heal. They need to be loose to heal in the right place, and then when you stand up in the morning, things are too tight and they rip apart again. So the cure for that is don't run uphill and then wear a night boot. Look them up on Amazon. They're only like $30. They're great. Hold on, sip of coffee. Very excited, but I'm trying to remain calm. Oh, ADD side moment, squirrel moment. I'm trying something new. I'm wearing flip-flops to and from work. Like I leave my work shoes in the car. And then as soon as I get in the car, leaving work, I put on my flip-flops. And then when I get in the car in the morning, I just bring socks with me. And when I pull in the parking lot, I switch from my flip-flops to my work shoes and put them on and then go to work. I'm trying to see if that's a relaxing method coming to and from work. A lot of things are mental, buddies. And anyway, where was I? Oh, so the other thing is whatever foot you have plantar fasciitis on, notice if the ground is sloped inward and downward on that foot whenever you go run, and on your bike shoes and on your cleats, because that rolls your ankle in and then that pulls on things and tears them up. So I found this running loop over time. I've just slowly modified it, where if there's crown on the road, I'm running on the right hand side of the road, and I found the sidewalk. Over time, sidewalks get the foundations under them, the dirt and everything slopes off, and even though it looks flat, it's actually turned in or out. The chances that it's totally flat is it's like impossible. So it's sloped to one or the other. And I've realized running one way on the sidewalk, it hurts my feet. It hurts my right foot, but running the other way, it doesn't hurt. And it's because if it's sloped so that the instep is higher, then your foot doesn't roll in as much. So I wanted to give that tip for those of you. I was jogging this morning in my Ultra Escalantes, which basically have the Adidas Boost material in them, but they have no high heel. They're flat, but lots of cushion. They're fantastic. I just love those shoes. So I had this fantastic run this morning, just jogging. Did 7 miles, I think at a 9:40 pace. I'm just jogging along. Very, 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 very nice. And I wanted to give another tip. What was it? Oh, I'm trying out sporttrack.mobi just for a few workouts. I've got a lot invested in Training Peaks. I mean, I got thousands of workouts built in there and stuff that I can, as I coach, I can drag and drop them to people. And also, the other thing was I wanted to mention, well, let's see, two things. Only 1 cup of coffee before running this morning. Then I didn't have to pee every freaking 20 minutes. And there was something else. What was it? You could tell I'm really relaxed. That run was really, really nice. Oh, I tried running last night. So I had taken a week off from running. And then I ran a couple days ago, 7 miles, jogging. I think I talked about that. Hopefully I talked about that before. I don't know if it recorded or not, though. And then I'm going to take another sip of coffee. I'm almost done here. And then tried running last night, and I have this problem where if I run in the evening after dinner, a lot of times I have this huge energy fade. Like I just feel so weak, and I've got to figure out what's going on. Thought it was caffeine, but I had hardly any caffeine yesterday afternoon and evening. Had like some green tea once. And then is it because I ate a bunch of junk, crappy food for dinner, and then my stomach was all full And then when I tried to go run, all the blood's going to my stomach. But anyway, it's really annoying. But success has to do with how you handle problems. Thinking that you're not going to have problems is not going to serve you well in life. Buddhism, which Zen is an offshoot of, says the 84th problem is the problem. And what problem is that? It's thinking that you shouldn't have the 83 other problems. It's so old school philosophy. Life has problems. So it's actually all what you do with your problems that makes you a success or not. It's how you handle them. So last night, my run started sucking half a mile in. I was like, oh my God. And I was sore because I hadn't run for a week and then I ran 7 miles. So I was sore. My form was all like floppy and crappy. And to succeed in that situation, I changed my goal and I walked instead. So you have to have the self-control to cut a workout short. I was on this loop. It's a 2-mile loop. I run 2.5 mile loop that I run a bunch of times. So I cut the run loop short and only ran 1 loop and actually walked a bunch of it. Walked, ran as I felt necessary. Cashed it in and said, if my legs are sore enough that my form is crap, I'm actually probably doing more harm than good. You shouldn't work out with bad form. Because 1, you're teaching yourself bad form, and 2, you're encouraging injuries, which I've already got plenty of. I don't need any more. All right, that's it. I got to go into W to the ERK. Been getting a lot of compliments on the show that people like the return of the training log and me just yakking about whatever. So I'm excited. I'm glad to do it. All right, that's it. Out. Bing. I'm trying to get over the plantar fasciitis, and I did a really good job. Still the tiniest bit of it left over. So I did 2 things. 1, I looked at my cleats. And my right cleat, and my right foot's the one that still hurts the most. My right cleat was pushed outboard a little bit. And that actually makes your foot roll in a little because it doesn't have as much platform under it, under the big toe. And so I moved that inward, and I could actually tell, I moved the cleat inward, which gave support under the inside of my foot. And I could tell my foot didn't want to roll in as much. So I like that. That was smart. And then the other thing is part of my biking plantar fasciitis injury is I go too hard on the bike, and I'm trying to come up with strategies to minimize that. You know, how do you go easier on the bike but still have a good time that makes your time worth it? There's some girls selling lemonade in the park, little girls. And one way is to make your ride entertaining but without actually targeting anything. So I fixed the TV in there. The TV has been hardwired just to run off my laptop, and on my laptop it's either Zwift, which is super competitive and hard. There's another lady, she's trying to walk or wash her dogs. I can't tell what she's doing. And then what is the other thing? Watching YouTube videos, but most of my YouTube videos aren't like TV. They're like point of view cycling. I like watching bike races and Ironman races and stuff, and they get me too excited. I pedal too hard. So I fixed the cable box so the signal coming out of it also was run to the TV. And last night I biked while watching The Simpsons and I can't remember. Oh, Family Guy. Just some pointless crap, you know? But that kept me entertained. The only thing I can't stand is freaking all the stupid commercials. But I got this idea. I think I mentioned it last episode. The guy that won my age group and qualified for Kona at Ironman, and he's done it a bunch. He's kind of famous. Sam Guide, Gyde, at Ironman Texas, and he's just great. He's an awesome athlete. There was an interview with him, and they say, "What do you do to pass the time on the bike trainer?" Because he lives in a place where he can't bike outside a lot. And he said he likes watching. Even though he's in Germany, he's a Houston Rockets fan. He watches NBA basketball, and I read that and I was like, that's really, really smart. Because, put it in park here. Because if you're going for big volume, the hard part is getting in the time. The easy part is that you should go easy. But with that much time on the trainer, it's really, you're really exposing yourself to a lot of time on the trainer where you could accidentally go too hard, too frequently. So you have to come up with a method to spend 3 hours on the bike, but also 3 hours where you never go really hard, that you go just kind of easy to moderate at most. And so you have to have something distracting on TV. And it's basically like you don't want to throw hills, like a really hilly bike ride at yourself on the trainer. And you can do that if you're training to the wrong thing. So how do you make your bike ride just relatively easy? And I don't like watching basketball games. I'm sure I would. I mean, I used to play basketball a lot. But to me, the commercials drive me crazy. I found soccer has no commercials, but it's a little bit too slow. I love soccer, though. Played that a lot, too, growing up. So I'm still looking for the right thing that has almost no commercials and is really entertaining. So I watch UFC fights, and then, Netflix is okay. I guess I could find more TV shows on Netflix. I'm always like too snobby. I'm like, I won't like that. That's stupid. I won't like that. And I'm just like sorting through them. But then when finally I do get forced to watching stuff, I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. I just don't know. Anyway, I had those couple little updates, and I'm actually going to go run tonight. It's going to be so hot. Oh my gosh, it was 100 degrees today, I think. High humidity, wind out of the south coming up from the Golfo de Mexico. And we're back at it, buddies. But tonight I'm going to go jogging. Just jog. All right, that's it. Out. Bang. Oh, I'm back. I forgot something. During my run, I was listening on Pandora to a radio station I made. Started with the band, or the song, I think it's a band, Lo-Fi Samurai. It's really good. That's a real plus I wanted to share with you. I'm about to hop in the pool here for a second. And then I was noticing something that is a useful training tip. I'm trying to get these socks off while I go. I'm trying not to talk too loud in case there's people out in the yard behind me. But frequency. So everything in the world has a oh, there is a neighbor. Hold on. All right, we're back. I've turned on the pool. It's got little fountains that run off the side, create some white noise so I can actually talk without feeling like I'm being spied on or something like that. Anyway, now we're waist deep in the water. This feels good. We're going to test the chlorine too while we're here. Frequency is something you see in nature, and if oh my gosh, there is a fence board missing. There's a lot of fence boards missing. Oh crap. I guess they were working on the fence yesterday. And last night. We're gonna have to walk the dogs instead of letting them out in the backyard. My neighbor told me they were gonna start doing that. A week ago. Okay. That's all the hammering that was going on last night. The fence is starting to fall down, so they're between the houses, so they're replacing it. Anyway, I noticed watching a video a while back. It was a slow-mo video of the different frequencies that dogs shake to get water off their back, or water off their fur, And small dogs shake faster, and they showed like tigers and stuff like that too, right? So bigger animals shake slower, but what it is, they have a different diameter and radius, and so when they shake around their center axis, at the outer points, the speed is pretty much at the circumference, the line of the circumference, the speed is pretty much the same, because it's basically like a wheel diameter. Hey, no. Hey, Emily, get him back. Emily, Kai, get him back. The fence is down over here. Get him back. Get him quick. Well, that was a complete cluster F. Note to self, I had to start a whole new recording. The end of the pool escapade ended up being just insane. Dogs almost got out. And then I'm trying to relax and get my thoughts together. And then the rest of the family decided to have, I was looking at a text message, decided to have a family meeting all of a sudden all around me about everything that's going on today. And I'm like, I'm trying to record a podcast. That's the life of a podcaster, though. And I just got an important text message. So hold on just a sec. All right, so what I forgot to mention earlier is that I'm working on a reverse triathlon. I ran for an hour, then I'm going to, already biked for an hour, just finished. I'm walking through the kitchen right now, that's why it's all echoey. And then I'm going to swim for an hour. So the run was 7 miles, and so it was an hour and 5 minutes or something like that. And then the bike was 27 miles on the trainer, but that's flat ground, so probably like 24 miles. And on the bike, pretty excited. It only took 7 minutes to warm up. I almost forgot about it. I was like, oh, I'm warmed up. And I've found that that's true. If I run first, then my legs are, and I don't run too hard, then my legs are all nice and warmed up. And I can actually start biking and feel better faster. But then the end of the ride is a little bit harder. And I was watching, there's 2 new bikes out. So there's some videos on YouTube about the new BMC. And these are road bikes, not tri bikes. And the new Cannondale. Cannondale still refuses to call it an aero road bike. Come on, people. And I love Cannondale. I think Cannondale's awesome. And I used to have a BMC. I love BMC too. 2 great bikes. Very interesting features on them, so go check them out. I agree with them strongly. Let's see, especially the BMC stuff. There's a storage box down below where the 2 bottles go on the frame. Make a little triangle down there, that space. They filled it with a container to hold your tire change kit, which is really smart. So we're going to see that on more and more bikes, I bet. The DI2 electronic shifting junction box is underneath the front bottle cage. I don't necessarily agree with that because that stuff leaks, and then you're going to get a shiz ton of sugary, sticky crap down in there. And let's see. That was fun. And then I was watching a video about, Dirty Kanza, which is a gravel road ride. That was a nice video. And then a preview of the Tour de France, which was a nice video. And the whole time I was kind of doing over-unders where I was going, I just ride normally, and then I realize I'm going a little bit too hard than I should, so then I back off a little bit. And then over time, I realize I'm going a little bit too hard, so then I back off a little bit. So it's just like very natural riding, which has to do with frequency, which I wanted to get talking about here. If a dog shakes its fur, a bigger dog shakes slower, but because the fur's further out from the center, it's actually moving just as fast as a little dog shaking quickly. the fur is, and that shakes the water off. There's a slow motion video of this on the internet showing that even though the big dog moves more slowly, it's just as effective as getting the water off as a dog that's smaller, shaking faster. And it's just really, really cool that there's a natural frequency with everything in life. And I noticed this, again, I was shaking water bottles. The best way to mix up whatever you're using as a fuel, if it's like some kind of powder or something in a water bottle, is to fill the bottles halfway with your mix and water, and then you've got all that empty space, and then when you shake them, all that empty space allows the stuff to slosh around real good, and that sloshing allows it to mix. Like if you filled it all the way to the top, it takes a lot longer to mix stuff because there's not enough action in the water. So I noticed shaking these bottles, got one in each hand because I'm doing 2 water bottles for a long workout. And the interesting thing is there's a frequency that's comfortable, just a shake, 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 shake. But shake, 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 shake actually tires you out, doesn't feel natural. There's a frequency that actually feels natural to shake things. And there's a frequency that's actually natural to do everything. So I was thinking about that. And then on my run this morning, I was realizing, your cadence is a frequency. How fast you're actually going. And one really great way to train is to just search for the frequency that feels appropriate at the moment. That just feels easy, but not too fast and not too slow. And I was like, what does it depend on? And it depends on how tired you are, how sore you are, and how much energy, which is how tired you are. And I guess the slope, but you should always be looking for that. It's like there's a frequency to do everything that's right, that feels good. And then with long distance endurance training, it's more about volume than anything else. So you just need to feel good while you're training. And that way you get in the volume. And the volume takes care of pretty much everything else. I mean, you mix in intervals and stuff. But what is the frequency that actually feels appropriate? And that's one of the things that you should be searching for, is the beat. And you can go a little bit faster, a little bit slower, and look and go, no, it was better where I was. One thing on running is be careful of ground contact time. People that are slow runners actually spend more time with their feet contacting the ground. And faster runners actually contact the ground and then are back off of it again. They spend more time in the air with light touches on the ground. I don't know if it's light, but less time actually touching the ground and more time in the air. So a slower runner will actually, foot hits the ground, and then if you calculated the time the foot's actually on the ground, it's actually like a really long time compared to a faster runner. All right, that's it. I'm going to have a little bit of eggs and a biscuit and then go hit the pool. And let's see what kind of swim we can get in. Feeling pretty good. And it's 4th of July. We're going to barbecue this afternoon. Yeah. Ooh, all right, leaving Gold's Gym. Ooh, it was packed. 4th of July, middle of the day. I saw on the website, the Universal website, that a lot of Gold's Gyms are closed on 4th of July. Ours is closing early. Looks like it's about to rain. So I am done with my 3 hours of glory. That was a 1 hour swim. I cranked out 4,300 yards in 59 minutes and 58 seconds. Talking about frequency, speeding up my frequency a little bit, and then my cadence. And then what that does is actually allows you to breathe more frequently. And in swimming, quite possibly for a lot of people, your biggest limiter, once your form is okay, your biggest limiter is oxygen. So if you glide too long, then you start having to slow down because you're not getting enough air, because you're not breathing frequently enough, because you can't breathe with your face underwater, people. Oh my God, listen to all these car keys. But that was nice. I had a beer after every after the run, and I had a Shiner Bock, and then after which is a Texas beer. It's a good beer, German beer. And then I had what was the other one? Oh, after the bike, I had a Shiner Bock. But I could feel when I was done swimming, everybody's driving a giant SUV or pickup truck. Come on, people, get out of the way. I could feel after the swim, I'm starting to get light, low blood sugar and shaky because I really haven't had much to eat today. I've fueled every workout, and I've had a little bit of eggs and a couple of biscuits. But aside from that, I really haven't had much. Had a bowl of cereal early this morning. But I started at 6 a.m. and now it's 12:40. I finished at like 12:30. And running the yellow light. And so that's a lot of hours without much fuel. So the next beer I have is going to be a Whopper, because low blood sugar plus just a little bit of alcohol equals, and an empty stomach equals woohoo, good buzz. So I think that's it. That's my reverse triathlon. That reminds me, one of the reasons they don't do reverse triathlons is when you hit the water, your legs start cramping up, and then that can send you to the bottom, which doesn't stop the SOS triathlon, survival of the Shawangunks in New York, which I've done at least twice. Can't remember now how many times I've done it. It's a very, very cool triathlon. It's about the length of a long half Ironman, very long half Ironman, and it's got 3 different swims mixed in. So you're trail running, and then you gotta swim across a lake, and run, and then swim across a lake. So you hit the water, and the water's cold, so it seizes up your muscles. If you want to do a race where they do mix in the swim a lot, then that's one. It's really hard to get into, though. They have limited slots. All right, that's it. I got to get into the house. We got guests coming over to barbecue, and I bet one of them's going to want to see the training room, and it's got dirty clothes hanging in it to dry off. You know how your bike turns into a clothes rack? So I need to kind of organize that just a little bit. All right, that's it. Out. Bang. All right, we are back. I'm in the pool finally. I went running this morning, so I did 3 hours yesterday, my reverse triathlon, and I'm always trying to pay attention to what works and what doesn't. And I'm noticing that my run, I had a good run this morning. My run is much better now that I'm not trying so hard on the bike. And again, the trick to not trying so hard on the bike is one, I was thinking about this, like you really have to remember that you're a triathlete and you're working out at least twice as much as a single sport person. So you have to be careful and not do too much. You just have to be okay at 3 sports. And my bike ride yesterday, what did I do? I watched a whole bunch of YouTube videos, and what I'm doing is I have a tendency, I'd say probably 80% of us have this tendency to go too hard. And so basically, my new training technique is I just catch myself going too hard and then back off. And then naturally, the frequency is to start going too hard again. And I can tell, and then that's fine, that you end up with over-unders, which is a little bit harder than race pace, a little bit easier than race pace, a little bit harder than race pace. It's fantastic training. And so I can tell when I run the next day, how beat up are my legs? Do I feel like I'm too sore? I got muscles pulled, strains, all kinds of stuff. How fast do I get going? And considering all I did yesterday, I was just a tiny bit slower than yesterday. Got water in my ear. And it works out. So I'm actually really excited. And I think with the plantar fasciitis, one of the major problems is, besides your feet rolling in, is your calves getting tight. And running in the ultras, they're zero drop, which means the heel is the same height as the forefoot. That actually stretches your calves out quite a bit. And I think I've got it nailed. Like it's my calves don't feel like they're tight or pulling. I woke up this morning. I have a daily log where in ticktick.com I have a repeating task where I put in the comments how bad my feet hurt when I start running. Emily's walking out by the pool. That's a cool nurse's outfit. Uniform? I don't know. What do you call it? And I woke up this morning, and in spite of all that I did yesterday, in one of my faster runs, my uniform? Are you a waitress? Are you a blood waitress?
Are you in my blood circle?
I'm recording right now.
Oh, great.
How was our 4th of July?
It was good.
It was good?
You made the best of...
Kona swam in the pool a lot.
Oh, he's so happy.
Uh-huh. He was very happy.
And then he was rolling.
He likes leaping into the pool.
Zoe even got in.
Yeah.
And she...
Oh, no.
Here we are.
All right. Well, let me finish recording so I can go back in and shower. I can't record with you around since day one.
They're still out here.
Mm-hmm. They're full of opinions, too. Zoe, come here. What's your opinion about everything today? Oh, really? Oh, Kona's drinking out of the pool now. Okay. Anyway. So one smart thing to do to recover from injuries is to monitor your progress. I listen to too many Canadian podcasts. And then see what helps and see what hurts. And just stop doing what hurts and keep doing what helps. And I woke up this morning and I started walking, and my heels didn't hurt. My feet were the tiniest bit tight, but then they went away, and the tightness went away. My feet didn't go away. I wasn't walking around on stumps, but I was like, all right, cool. The over-under at a moderate pace does work, and running in the ultra shoes with the heel drop does work. Running on the right-hand side of the road or on flat pavement, like on a sidewalk, works, because that doesn't allow my ankle to roll in as much. And as things strengthen up and repair, then eventually I can move to the middle of the road or to the left side of the road some. But my right leg's actually longer than my left, and that's why I have that problem. I figured that out about 20 years ago. And I need to run on the right side of the road more than the left. Because then the crown naturally has things even out. Or else I get knee pain on the outside of my knee, my right knee, from my knee buckling in to try to shorten the distance. All right, that's it. I'm going to go in and shower up for W to the ERK. This has been your mellow triathlon update. We're about to wrap up the show because I want to edit it on the plane on the way to San Diego, which is the next adventure. Maybe we'll do some La Jolla swimming. All right, that's out. Bang. Just had a little bit of a Zen moment of enlightenment. I was walking out to the car on my way to work after packing up all my stuff. And I've had a hint of this actually very recently. And my feet kind of hurt. And then I thought, yeah, but your feet hurt in the way that they're supposed to hurt because you've been working out. And it's just, regular aches and pains, not injury aches and pains. Like if you work out and then the next couple of days you're kind of sore or whatever, that kind of pain. And I haven't had that in so long. That was so great. I was like, oh, it's not actually a problem, if this is normal, hopefully. So I had that little bit of a moment. Also, I've been trying to think of what we're going to do in San Diego. Maybe go swim La Jolla Cove would be kind of cool. And then maybe run in the treadmill at the hotel, kind of see what's going on with that situation. I really hate running on treadmills because they never set up enough fans. The last time I did a business trip and I was someplace for a week, because I drove my car, I brought a standing fan so I could set it up in front of me and run without pouring and sweat all over the place because I had a breeze on me. And I was glad I did. It actually made a big difference. I had to carry this fan in a big duffel bag down to the workout room, but it actually was not a problem. And also the Xterra has worn through its tires. I have to get the tires I tried to get the vehicle inspected and it didn't pass because of the tires are worn down too much. So now I got to get those. I've got friends asking me to do the Santa Rosa, I don't know, the Ironman that's in the wine country, and they're pushing me to sign up. I need to reply back. And dude, I got to buy new tires, and Xterra tires are actually a little bit thicker and heavier, so they probably cost more. So that's not going to be cool. So that might be my $1,000 worth of registration fee right there, unfortunately. So, but it does make me think about, am I going to do an Iron Baby this fall? If my feet keep going the way they are, I mean, maybe it'd be pretty cool, pretty freaking cool. All right, Iron Baby's the self-supported Ironman I try to do every year. Skipped a couple years now. All right, that's it. Out, bang. All right, we are leaving the pool. Really good swim this morning. Really good. Got some great tips for you. I set my pace beep on my watch to a 1:23 interval because that's what I swam last time, but I was feeling like I wanted to improve it a little bit. 1:23, 1 minute 23 seconds per 100 yards. And I was swimming along and started beating it pretty early on, so I decided to kind of stick with it. And the trick is to find my car keys. The trick is to swim the fastest that you can with the least amount of effort. And if you have a beep timer going, you can change up things, change your technique, and see what's faster, right? Because if you start beating the beep, then you're doing something right. If you start falling behind the beep, then you're doing something wrong. But a very important thing to remember is to put your AirPods in your AirPod case. Very important thing to remember is you have to do this without increasing effort. Same effort. And that's why I wish we had heart rate in the pool a little bit better than we do. Because you can do this on the treadmill. You can go, okay, same effort or even lower effort. If I drop my hands a little bit or, arch my back a little bit more to get more lung space in your chest, then do you start going faster? Do you pull your hands in closer? Elbows in a little bit more, elbows out a little bit more, shorten up your stride, lengthen out your stride, all this stuff, but at the same heart rate, you start going faster. It's awesome on the bike. You go, okay, I'm gonna get lower on the front end. Well, then your heart rate starts going up because you're compressing your chest and it's restricting your blood flow a little bit, especially if you got a little bit of a beer belly, a little bit of a gut, then you'll notice your heart rate starts going up. So yeah, you're a little bit faster, but also you're having to try harder, and that's not what you want. You want to try less or the same and go faster. So anyway, I'm swimming along and I'm trying out different swim techniques, and more than anything, you want to do high elbow, early forearm catch. If you don't know what that is, Google it, look it up. You want your hands to drop before your elbows. Medium high cadence, as fast as you can without trying. And actually it's just like biking. If you get on a bike with a power meter, notice that you can up your cadence, pedal, put it in an easier gear, and you can pedal faster, and your power's the same. And it's actually less stress on your legs because it's less torque. And your muscles are way more sensitive to torque than cadence, than higher cadence, than frequency. Oh, frequency, that word again. But I was swimming along, and I was trying out a position that was having really good results. I was beating the clock. I set it to a 123 initially, and I started doing about what I figured was about a 121. And I was like, man, I'm beating the clock. And there's something about beating the clock that psychologically is really nice. It makes you motivated and happy and puts a grin on your face, which makes you train better. And I was doing this elbows more out to the side and up, and my forearms more vertical in the water, but my upper arm more horizontal in the water. And I was like, how do I describe this to people? Because this is working. I'm cruising, and I'm not trying very hard. I'm going faster than I thought I would. And I was like, oh, this feels like push-up position. And I've thought about that before. So I spent 3 years of my life in Marine Corps or Navy Marine Corps, Texas A&M Corps of Cadets, and also high school Marine Military Academy, which is run by Marines. So I spent about 3 years of my life in push-up position on my face, being punished, which looking back is okay, but man, it was hard. But anyway, it felt a lot like being in push-up position. So I thought I would, via audio, try to describe to y'all how to do it, what it kind of feels like. Because that's a big thing. When you're trying to teach somebody how to do something right with technique, you teach them how it feels, how the right way feels, and search for that feeling. And then people can search for that feeling, and they can then they can succeed. So get on your face, unless you're driving. Get on your face in push-up position with your hands pretty much under your shoulders and your elbows out to the side. Maybe out to your shoulder. Your hands wider than your shoulders. I'm trying to do it while driving. Yeah, your hands wider than your shoulders and elbows out to the side. Like your elbows pointing left and right, not back behind you. A lot of people do push-ups the wrong way. They're using their triceps, which are very small muscles compared to your pecs. Now, sit there in that position, get used to it for a minute, and put your chin on the ground. Your chest and your chin is on the ground. Your hands are wider than your shoulders, but elbows sticking out sideways from your body, not pointing backwards, but pointing out directly to the side, 90-degree angle from your body. That is where your hands should be when you're pulling. It should feel something like that. A push up, so maybe you're about, 6 inches off the ground, right like that. That is where your arm should be, right in the middle of the catch. Okay, so you can practice this by you can lay back down. Now put one arm out in front of you, so you're streamlined with one arm, and now have that hand out to the side. Your other hand, your pull hand, out to the side. Chin on the ground, so you're very, very slightly looking forward. And then when you're doing this in the water, you should feel very neutral in the water. You shouldn't feel too much pressure on your chest, and you shouldn't feel too much pressure on the back of your head. You should feel just very neutral. And your legs together, toes pointed back if you can, and about like that. That is pretty much the fastest technique. The very top of the back of your head, coming out of the water a little bit, water kind of trickling over the top of your head. Submerged on occasion, sometimes not, it just kind of depends. About like that. And then another thing is you need to practice what you're going to be doing in a race. Now, in a race, you got to look forward some. So the best swimming advice is to swim looking sort of down and then on occasion looking forward, because looking totally forward messes up your stroke a little bit. You're plowing with your face a little bit. So you just kind of want to peek up a little bit on occasion. Don't make too big of a deal out of it. But what I've noticed is if you, search for a very slight arch in your back. And what that does is it gets your feet up. And like we talked about just a few minutes ago, it arches your chest just a little bit. And that drives your chest down, which actually makes you a little bit faster, because that lifts your legs up. And the compound effect of that is that it also opens up your lungs a little bit. It makes your chest cavity a little bit bigger, so that you can take bigger breaths. When you do breathe, you got more surface area in your lungs because you've got a bigger cavity going now, and you can exchange air faster. Pretty cool, huh? That is your swim tip of the day. Now, this is definitely the last entry. I'll wrap up the show with comments and sponsors, and I can do a little bit actually while I'm parking here and putting on my shoes. I'm driving with my flip-flops again. Maybe you can hear my wet feet on my flip-flops. Ooh, somebody's parking. Will you let me in? Oh, they pulled through. Let's see, we have Amrita bars. I got a box of Amrita bars right here in front of me. I'm very excited. I'm going to have some today as a snack at lunch. What flavors do we have? We have Amrita bar superfood variety pack. What flavors do I got? Oh, I got a mixed box. Pineapple chia, mango coconut. That might be my favorite. Cranberry raisin, apple cinnamon, and apricot strawberry. Yeah, apricot strawberry is my other favorite. I got 2 of each. And these things are awesome. Slow burn energy. Keeps you your blood sugar stable while you're working out. You can even eat them on the bike. Gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, high fiber, which is really smart. And you can get a discount with code ZEN2018 or ZenTri 2018. Go to Amrita, AMRITA, healthfoods.com. and go check them out. Say hi to our buddy Arshad. Let me clip my swim bag here and get out my keep my swim bag in the vehicle. And where's my socks? I got socks with bicycles on it. Hold on. Gonna roll up my window so I can actually talk to y'all without other people hearing me outside of the car, parking their cars. So the other sponsor at the moment that we need to bring up is Martin, MAURTEN. They're a fuel. I dabble in fuels all the time, looking for what works the best. Honestly, lots of fuels work great for lots of people. A really good one for the heat of the summer is Martin, and it's because they have an ingredient that they've added to theirs that turns it from water into as liquid as water, so it's easy to drink, into a hydrogel. Can you all hear me? I have to have the microphone over there so I can put on my shoes and socks in my car. Into a hydrogel, so it's more, once it passes your, once it gets into your stomach acid, I love this, I love the science of this. Your stomach acid interacts with sodium alginate, which is a common food ingredient. It's very safe, and it's actually found in seaweed. It interacts with that, turns it into a gel. a hydrogel. So now the fuel is encased in water. And then your stomach goes, oh, this is a big particle. I'm gonna pass it on by into the intestine so it can start ingesting in your intestine. And then, oh man, I'm late. I'm 2 minutes late. And then your body can use the fuel. So you can actually get in more calories using Martin. There we go, we got my shoes on. We got my shoes on now. You can eat more calories using Martin, especially when it's hot. So go check them out. They're out of Sweden, and they were part of the Nike project for breaking the marathon. And people are loving it. It's so awesome. All right, that's it. I got to go into W to the arcade. I got a meeting in 30 minutes, and I need to eat something. Probably some Thai food that I got left over and an Amrita bar. How about that? All right, out, bang. Oh, Amrita bars are awesome for meetings. Awesome. They're not loud or crunchy, so you can just have a bite every once in a while. And people don't even know that you're like a super duper athlete. All right, that's it. Out, bang. All right, we are wrapping up this show for good. I promise this is the last little bit right here. I'm in the Dallas airport on my way to San Diego. Got there for a few days for work stuff and hop right on back. Gonna have a good time. We'll record some good stuff out there. Before I left, I just did an hour on the bike watching Tour de France at the same time. Tour de France. And it's already looking crazy with Froome being knocked off his bike into the ditch, losing 51 seconds. It's pretty cool. And let's see, there's our announcements. I'm listening for my flight. There was a new bike announced, another new bike for the tour. Oh shoot, I can't remember what it was. Oh, was it Specialized? No, Trek. And it's got the adjustable rear suspension. It's got the adjustable rear suspension, which is really cool, except that you have to stop the bike to adjust it. They ought to put a little knob under there and make it so you can adjust it on the fly. I used to have a Cannondale full suspension mountain bike with a head shock. You could turn the shock off and on while riding, in the middle of riding. It was really easy to do too. So they should do something like that. All right. Let's see. Oh, we need to do show donors real quick. And I need to mention you can get a discount on UCAN, which is a Superstar. Discount code ZenTri. And I've locked myself out of the phone here. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Oh, last episode, I forgot to mention a bunch of donors. And you can get your name mentioned on the show by going to the left-hand side of ZenTriathlon.com, where also there's a ton of a backlog of old episodes posted. And you can either do a one-time donation or a recurring donation. So last episode, we have Derek Riddell, Justice Phillips, Karen Jackson, Brett Hoyer, coolest first name in triathlon, Simon Wright, Daniel Clemens, Rick Foster, Michael Radagna, Will Smith, what's up? Jonathan Woodman, Hunshu, John Moulin, Tanya Roy, Katie, Joe Favia, Peter Salzin, Matthew Heinz, because his name's always in all caps, Hans-Henrik Madsen. And it may be Madsen Hans Henrik. I don't know. Well, some of these may be a repeat because I'm lately getting a show out every 2 weeks. Let's see. Sharon.
Final call, flight number 2203, service Minneapolis, St. Paul, gate mark 836. Final call, flight 2203, service Dallas, Minneapolis, St. Paul, gate 836.
Sharon Pasternak, Allison Frutos, Spiros Fetsis, Tyler Moyer, Curtis Fossen, Joseph Dieber, Dwayne Morin, and David Ziegler-Voll. And David sent in a one-time donation and mentioned that he listens to, or he read the Rich Roll book, and he definitely likes ZenTri a whole lot better. which is fine. Rich Roll and I are actually friends, and we go back a long way. He's helped me run some training camps, and he's an all-around great guy. But we are definitely very different, and we're very much the same, and at the same time very different. And I'll let you people out there discover how, if you want. And at one point we were much more alike than different than we are different now. Okay, now that I've got this last bit all recorded, I'm gonna hop on a plane and spend the 2 hours that we're flying actually editing it down into a show. So next episode we'll have a whole lot from San Diego. All right, that's it. Everybody stay safe out there. Work the uphills, cruise the downhills, and keep the rubber side down. Out.